Hi, everybody. Every time I hear that bio read, I think, man, I got to rewrite that thing. It's so boring. Okay, so I'll be brief because it's been a very rich and lengthy 2 days. And I recognize from the previous two panelists, I'm standing between you and perhaps a pre-dinner drink. So we don't want to go on too long. It's really an honor for me to be here with you and share my thoughts at the closing of this conference. And as I said, I will be brief. It's kind of really amazing to come on the heels of the two previous panelists. And from what I've heard, many other panelists and speakers throughout the course of this 2 days that have made it a very rich learning environment for everyone, really thought-provoking information shared and some challenges put on the table and ways to think about how do we do this business that we're all in together better. So it's so important to take the time for gatherings such as this, just to have that full and free exchange of ideas. The theme of the conference, obviously, learning from the past and a vision for the future. So I'll talk a little bit about the Syrian refugee project because I was in charge of it for the last year and continue to be in charge of it in terms of all the things that are still going on. We brought an extraordinary number of people here in a very short period of time. I never believed it could have been possible, but it was. But it was the end of the beginning because there's so many more things to do in terms of helping integrate those Syrian refugees and other resettled refugees into our Canadian family. And that's going to be a lengthy process. So we need to all be continuing to work together to make sure that that happens as best as it can. From learning from this past year, we basically, at my department, and with the help of so many other federal government departments, reinvented the way in which we did the resettlement business. And we reinvented the way we worked with our international partners, with our provincial and territorial partners, with many, many of you in the room. And there are very strong takeaways from that new ways of working together that we want to continue reflecting on. We took stock regularly over and over to try and make sure that the money that we were putting into the settlement and resettlement programming was getting to the right areas and we're addressing the very real needs that were being experienced in the communities where refugees were being resettled. So we're now coming close to the end of our 1 year mark of that massive number of people being brought to Canada in very short order. And we need to continue to work together to help the Syrian refugees, as I said, manage that transition off federal income support onto probably provincial and territorial social assistance. We want to make the dreaded month 13. We want to make sure that people continue to be supported. What we do know about the Syrian refugees so far is they are following the path that other resettled refugees have gone through post-arrival in Canada. The 26,172 that we got here by the end of February last year, I was very thankful it was a leap year, let me tell you. By July, we had everyone in permanent housing. We know now of that initial cohort of people who came in that the vast majority of them have had their language needs assessed, and of those, more than 2/3 are already in full-time language training. And we also know from a decade of research that privately sponsored refugees, about 50% of them have evidence of employment income during their first year in Canada, and 10% of government-assisted refugees. And from the Rapid Impact Evaluation Study, we're just wrapping up now, our Syrian families are in exactly the same place. So they're doing well, but it's still, I'm sure, in many ways a struggle for them. One of the questions that came up about, I hope everyone's writing this down, Mike Malloy in particular has said to me, Dawn, don't wait 30 years to write the book like I did for the Vietnamese boat people. And so yes, we are documenting. We are trying to find time to actually continue documenting. There's also a cajillion and one access to information requests that we're constantly pushing information out to all kinds of folks who have been asking about it. It's very proud of what Canadians have achieved together in terms of the Syrian Refugee Initiative. And there's issues that now we know we really need to dig our teeth into. How do we help manage the transition between what happens federally and provincially, particularly in the area of mental health? How do we have better and different programming for youth, because there's so many young people that came as part of the Syrian refugee group. So there's lots of areas that we still need to continue working together. The government's ambition for immigration, of course, goes beyond the humanitarian category. Minister McCallum was here yesterday. Our new baseline for immigration is 300,000 immigrants per year in all categories. And that includes a very healthy number for resettled refugees, not as much as this current calendar year, but still for 25,000. We were resettling about 12 to 14,000 refugees per year for many years. Next year, our target is 25,000, and that's really going to help us reduce the wait time for the number of people who have been waiting for a long time for their opportunity to come to Canada. And what we know about people who have chosen to join our Canadian family is that they enrich us. We know that. And they help us build the future of what our Canada will become. So in one of my other areas of responsibility is heading up the team that delivers the funding for all the settlement and resettlement programming. So with the extra money the government allocated to us for the Syrian refugee movement, that's now, I think it's in the range of $1.2 billion spent outside Quebec annually. That's a huge amount of money. And so what we need to get better at, and what I would challenge you to think about, is how can we get better about telling the story, whether as practitioners, as academics, as researchers, in what a difference this money makes to the people who receive the programming. We're not very good at telling that story in any kind of systematic way. Yes, we have iCare, and yes, we collect a lot of data, but it's still not that really meaty information that I get asked about constantly from my minister, from the Prime Minister. Okay, Dawn, tell us what you did with the money, and what difference did it make, and what happened next, and how did we get value for money? And so really a call out from me to all of you here to help us figure out ways in which we can tell that story a lot better. I'm going to shut up in a sec, because as I said I would be brief. See, I'm cutting out all these pages. I just want to say that I'm certain you've had a real benefit from these 2 days of being together, of taking the time and space to learn together, to debate, to discuss. Really rich discussions, really terrific panelists from the programming that I saw. And these kinds of issues and the discussions and debates are really central to the success of building the future of Canada with our immigrant newcomers. So congratulations in particular to these two ladies for organizing a terrific conference and bringing us all together. And I'm sure you're looking forward to the 5th conference next year, where, of course, we're celebrating the 150th anniversary of Canada becoming a nation. We are a nation of immigrants. We've been bringing people to Canada for hundreds of years, not just the last year, not just the last 5 years. And we really need to continue to celebrate that, learn about it, learn from it. And really, again, thanks for giving me the opportunity of being your closing speaker. Thanks.